Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Vishupad Paramahansa Paravikacharya Asatora Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnavindi Ki Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories, all glories Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. I lost my phone, so I've kind of lost my sense of what day of the week it is. So, seeing them chanting this morning, oh, it's Sunday. So usually Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami is speaking at this time, so missing hearing from him. Anyway, I suggest that Prabhu should give, if he's not here at least. He studied under Maharaj for such a long time. Get his realizations. Nice to see the boys starting to dance a little more. No? Prabhupada used to always, he'd make them dance. He'd go. So, yeah, when you get old, you won't be able to dance. So you have to do it while you're young. Your legs hurt too much. So while you have young bodies, take advantage of it. So, my name is Sikhi Mahiti Das. Disciple Srila Prabhupada from 1974 in Chicago. So we're speaking today from the 7th canto, chapter 14, text 42. This is the last verse of that chapter on ideal family life. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Charvam Narotaram Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Vitojaya Mudirayet Nasapareshu Apareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavarutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Shrinvata Swakata Kṛṣṇa Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridansto Ibhadrani Vidunati Saritsitam. Navasya Brahmana Rajan. They can't see it at all, huh? They have it memorized though, right? Children? No? Okay. Kṛṣṇasya Jagatmana Punata Padarajasa Trilokim Daivitam Mahat Navasya Brahmana Rajan Kṛṣṇasya Jagatmana Punata Padarajasa Trilokim Daivitam Trilokim Daivatat Mahat. Navasya Brahmana Rajan Kṛṣṇasya Jagat Atmana Panatta Pararajasa Trilokim Daivitat Mahat. Daivi, you want to? Navasya Brahmana Rajan Navasya Brahmana Rajan Anyone else? The Vaishnavis? Navasya Brahmana Najan Kṛṣṇasya Jagadatmana Punata Pararajasa O King Nanu but Asya by him Brahmana the qualified brāhmaṇas Rajan O King Kṛṣṇasya by Lord Kṛṣṇa the Supreme Personality of Godhead Jagat Atmana who is the life and soul of the whole creation Punata sanctifying Pararajasa by the dust of their lotus feet Trilokim the three worlds Daivatam worshipable Mahat most exalted Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. My dear King Yudhiṣṭhira, the brāhmaṇas, this is Narada Muni speaking, the brāhmaṇas, especially those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord throughout the entire world, are recognized and worshipped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the heart and soul of all creation. The brāhmaṇas, by their preaching, sanctify the three worlds with the dust of their lotus feet, and thus they are worshipable, even for Kṛṣṇa. Purport. As admitted by Lord Kṛṣṇa in Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, verse 69. Nacha tasman manushe kashtin me priya kritatma. The brāhmaṇas preach the cult of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Us to worship? The brāhmaṇas. In conclusion, therefore, brāhmaṇas and Vaishnavas who are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord must be worshipped by religionists, philosophers, and people in general. At the Rajasuya Yajna of Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira, many hundreds and thousands of brāhmanas were present. So imagine that. We have our festival and we have thousands. So Rajasuya is even grander than that. Therefore, Kṛṣṇa is always the Supreme Person. But By his causeless mercy, he recognizes the brāhmaṇas as dearmost to him. Om Jnana Timirānjasa Gunanjanan Chalakaya Chakshuni Tamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Kṛṣṇa Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paschata Deshatarane. Vancha Kalpatrubhyas Cha Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha Patitanam Pavemyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Let's surrender. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're almost at the end of this 7th canto. There's one more chapter in this canto, and it's entitled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Of course, this is ideal family life. Previous is the behavior of the perfect person, and then Varnash and Dharma is all being discussed. Just a quick point. It's amazing that in this chapter of ideal family life, this emphasis of preaching is being enunciated. You think that would be in the section about the perfect behavior of the perfect person. So we'll talk about that, why that's being emphasized. I wanted to bring up also, as we're reading this, it's nice to understand the what is the situation at the time Prabhupada is translating these books. That helps in our understanding sometimes, and when we read the purports. Just as I talk to many devotees, and everyone pretty much has listened to Prabhupada lectures. Have you? Right? Who has not listened to Srila Prabhupada's lectures? Raise your hand. She's from China. They have difficulty hearing the English. You listen? Yeah? Okay. Some people, like in the beginning, the movement was like that. My wife is from Italy, and at that time, there weren't very many Italian books. So unless you read and hear from him, if you're hearing from me, I'm not pure devotee, so I have something mixed in there a little bit. Especially in Mayapur, you get a nice variety of classes. I remember maybe a week ago, the discussion of Shraddha. I said, I never heard people comment on Shraddha like that before. But, if you grow up like that in India, you have to perform Shraddha. Prabhupada never really emphasized that when we were present, because we're already serving. Isn't it? So, and then in the West, we're more influenced by Christianity, so you see people have that sentiment sometimes, it's Christmas, we have to do something for Christmas. So we Krishnize it a little bit. So that's okay. I mean, that's culture. You can use culture in Krishna's service. Mahaprabhu did the same thing. He didn't interfere with too many of the customs at the time. I mentioned before how Haridas Thakur, who is the Namacharya, isn't he? Such an exalted devotee. Yet he could not go into Jagannath temple. It seems like such an injustice, isn't it? And Mahaprabhu was present, Advaita Acharya, all these great personalities. Sada Shiva is there. Balaram, everybody, and nobody did anything to change it. They could have easily, done something. So, I believe, I hope I'm not wrong, but I believe also, correct me if I'm wrong, Haridas Thakur would not even go into Advaita Acharya's house because he's a brāhmana. He can't contaminate his house, so he would take prasadam outside. Right? Yeah. I remember reading that. And they would, and Nityananda and everyone else is inside. Because they didn't want to disturb everyone else in the society. They didn't want to be disturbed. So it wasn't that the cult that shows the culture is not that important, really. The more important thing is the chanting the Hare Kṛṣṇa and all these other processes were following. But when they interfered with Sankirtan, then immediately Mahaprabhu organized civil disobedience. Immediately. Thousands marched to the Chankazi's place, and just down here, just imagine. So, anyway, the Acharya establishes these principles. So, what I was leading up to, I mentioned this to some individuals. I just thought I'd put it out there now. There's about, at that time when I got Prabhupada's MP3s, there were maybe 1,950 individual files of him either speaking on a morning walk, in Bhagavatam class, evening lectures, or conversations. And the BBT archives has listed them in terms of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. So when you listen to them, they're all kind of just, here's Bhagavad Gita 213, and all the lectures are there. And as you listen to them, they kind of don't seem to make a lot of sense. Why is he saying this in 1975 versus not in 1967? So it's nice to know the context, what led to him speaking that way. So there is a method now, but at the time there was not a method in which you can organize all those lectures sequentially according to time. And when you do that, what will happen is they'll line up from the very first lecture or speaking to the very last. And what you'll see is Prabhupada in 1966 is on a morning walk, and someone will bring up like that. And then something else comes, and the subject will change. And you see him growing the movement, actually. Because in 1965, 1966, he's in the West. No one has any etiquette. At least in India, people are at least a little, Hindu, and they know how to treat sadhus and how to ask properly and things like that. In the West, it's, everybody's equal. So, Prabhupada is standing in line to use the bathroom. Can you imagine? Who in India would do such a thing? Even the atheists would let him go in front. Prabhupada's washing all the dishes, cooking. But gradually, as he grows the movement, he's teaching them these things. So, but you hear him speak in a particular way, and it grows all the way to the end of the movement. So if you line it up like that, it's not just listening to lectures. Actually, it becomes an audio history of the movement through his morning walks, lectures, and evening conversations. So I'm recommending everyone, if you can do that. I took all the files and I renamed them so they would line up like that. And that way I could just pause, I'd listen, pause, and my MP3 player would stay at that spot, and it just, so it's like watching a movie, actually, a Prabhupada audio movie. So I recommend everyone do that. So anyway, in 1976, I believe this is when this volume came out. At the time I joined, third canto was just coming out. There wasn't very many books. And every month another volume would be printed. So you're eager, I need part 2 to continue with the saga of Bhagavatam. And this one was highly anticipated, of course. And at that, Prabhupada, of course, probably translated this and commented on it around 1975. So at that time, ISKCON is pretty much firmly established. We have ashrams, brahmacharis, brahmacharinis. The book distribution is going very strong. In 1975 in Chicago, we were selling about $2,000 of books a day. In that time. That's probably like $10,000 a day now. That's just one temple. So it's not like in 1966, Prabhupada is standing in line to use the bathroom. So even in his books, he's growing the movement also in that way. That's why it's nice to read them sequentially, not just jump around. So you can grab that instructions, and you see how he's elevating us in Krishna consciousness, in practicing Krishna consciousness, and preaching Krishna consciousness. So, just to kind of bring us up to, since we're near the end here, this seventh canto actually began with Maharaj Parikshit actually asking two questions. He asked, why is the Lord partial to his devotees? He's supposed to be impartial, isn't he? He says, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, Namadvishastaya Priya, Ye Bachanti Tumbakya, Mayate Teshu Chapyam. He says that, I'm not envious of anyone. I'm not partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. Then again he says, but, anyone who renders service unto me in devotion is a friend in me and I'm a friend in him. That's natural. You see, we tend to forget that actually the entire existence is actually based on personal relationships. In Kali Yuga, because we're all Varna Samskara, we tend to shy away from personal relationships because people aren't civilized, impersonal, in a sense. But everything is about the perfection of this personal relationship with Kṛṣṇa. And when you say Kṛṣṇa, it doesn't mean just Kṛṣṇa. Right? If you have a friend, usually your friend has other friends too, don't they? So you have a circle of friends, and you join into that circle of friends, and you interact, and you can enjoy life. So wonderful. So actually everyone is looking for that. That's what we're really looking for. When we say I want to be happy, everyone should realize it's not the objects that make you happy, isn't it? Right? I give you a nice iPad, but I say you can only use it in your room by yourself. Not much fun, isn't it? Especially if you don't have internet. You have to connect to somebody. Or you want to show somebody, look at my pictures, So we use these things for experiencing these relationships. But in the material world, the problem is, of course, we are engaged in these relationships for selfish purposes. So therefore, there's not much satisfaction in them. Our nature is to be enjoyed. We are prakriti. Krishna is purush. So we should put ourselves in a position to be enjoyed and give enjoyment. That's the best position. So the second question he asked was, how did the envious Shishupal attain salvation when he was so inimical to Lord Kṛṣṇa? As we know, so therefore, Sukadeva Goswami narrated the pastime of the Rajasuya sacrifice. And there, Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira asked the same question. He saw Shishupal get his head cut off. He got it cut off very expertly, too. Not a drop of blood contaminated the sacrifice. Right? Of course, nowadays we have our jagas also. We have our devotees here being trained. And they're very wonderful ceremonies, are they not? How many people enjoy watching them chant and perform these ceremonies? Do you all like doing them? Or is it drudgery? Oh, I have to do it. Do you feel like that? No? It's nice. Everyone else enjoys it too. I think they should take them all over the world to do that, right? They have this famous choir of young boys. They call it the Vienna Boys Choir. And they sing, they go all over the world. We should take our Mayapur Gurukul all over the world and let them do the jagas and the sacrifices. And I travel with Nitya Kishori's international group. And actually the girls, you'd be surprised, they can do it also. Same thing. There was 4 of them for this ceremony today. So I told them, chant, Vishnu Sahasranam and a few others. They go, okay. I was surprised, right on the spot. They didn't even have to practice or anything. And 4 of them stood there. They have their outfits on to do Bharatanatyam dancing. And they're The whole audience was just, you hear these foreign devotees chanting so nicely. It was so ecstatic. Okay, now we'll dance. Then they start dancing, you know. I think boys do dancing too. Don't they have Bharatanatyam for boys? Of Srimad Bhagavatam ki. And in discussing the Shringa's pastime, you have to talk about Prahlad Maharaj. There's no question of Kṛṣṇa by himself. There's always Kṛṣṇa with his devotees. So they glorified Nrsimhadev, and actually Prahlad Maharaj is glorified even more. So in glorifying Prahlad Maharaj, then you have to show the contrast. So then comes the chapter of the behavior of the perfect person. You see how everything else comes? A little sidebar, you can say, from the discussion of why is Kṛṣṇa not impartial, that he is samoham sarvabhuteshu. So we get these other instructions. And now we're, as I mentioned, in this chapter of the ideal family life. So it's interesting here that in this translation it says, my dear King Yudhiṣṭhira, the brāhmaṇas, especially those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord throughout the entire world, are recognized and worshipped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we look at the word for word here, there's nothing that translates those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. It's like Prabhupada just added that. Sometimes you see the scholars will complain. He can't do that. He can't do that. That's not in there. You know, the word sanctifying. How? By the dust of their lotus feet. So 5,000 years ago, the brāhmaṇas were welcome because wherever they went, that place would become just like a holy place. What does that mean? What is it like when you go to a holy place? It feels good, doesn't it? You know, even when you leave Mayapur and you go to other, even Russia, he didn't spend practically any time there. It happens. It becomes fire, right? You say, no, it's iron. Okay, touch it. No, it's fire. Right? And you can set fire everywhere with it. So, until we come to the perfectional, we are in the perfectional stage, but until we personally burn away all our anarthas, we come here to Sridham Mayapur and we get recharged, take the iron rod, put it in the fire, then we go out again and we spread that fire everywhere. So this is our business. This is it says, again, they are very dear to the Lord. That verse, Prabhupada quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, says, the verse before, he says, Kṛṣṇa says at the end of the Gita, after he said, explains everything, he says, one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees. Pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So he gives a benediction there. And then he goes on further to say, where Prabhupada quotes here, 1869, devotional state of life. As a result of such pure devotion, he is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. So it's not important about the results, it's just the attempt. And why is this? Why is this dear to the Lord? Because we are all part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa. You know, just imagine we all have brothers and sisters, some of us have children, and sometimes family members have some disagreement and they break the relationship. It's painful, isn't it? Everyone's probably experienced this sometime or another. It's very painful. And imagine you're a friend of someone who's experiencing this. What do? You want to help your friend. You're a neutral party, so sometimes a neutral party can fix it. You may go to both parties and you try to Fix that relationship. That's what the preacher is doing. He goes and he tries to remind you, of, don't you, especially Bhagavatam, look how wonderful Krishna's life is. You just play all day, right? You don't have to study anything. There's no question of fighting sleep. Just take prasadam and play and dance. So why stay down here and struggle so hard in this material world? Just for a little bit of pleasure. It's like 100 pounds of struggle and maybe, 10 ounces of pleasure. Why? So a neutral party, just like you may go to the friend and they may be, oh, I'm tired of them, they did this, they said this to me. And you can sympathize, yes, that was very bad. I can understand why you're so upset. I don't blame you at all. Such a horrible person. How could they do that to you? But don't you remember, when we used to do this, we used to do that, you see, soften the heart. Like, oh, yeah. And you just keep talking gradually. You go to both parties the same way. You just keep glorifying the other person. Eventually, their heart will soften. And then they come back together. So the devotees are doing like that. We're trying to reclaim the fallen souls and bring them back to Krishna's feet, because he is paining. He is feeling that pain. So, of course, that's the Uttamadhikari. He can have that kind of love. His love is not just Krishna. Krishna is so wonderful, so I want to love Krishna. He's so wonderful, isn't it? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Real love is, let me relieve your suffering. And as we know, some of the great devotees, such as, who is the greatest devotee that wanted to relieve the suffering? Vasudeva Dutt. You all know Vasudeva Dutt? And what did he pray? He realized, trying to preach to everyone, there's so many living entities. How are you going to preach to all of them? And most of them don't want to hear it anyway. He had such great compassion, he prayed what? You just give me all their karma. Can you imagine such a thing? Just give me all their karma and let them go back to Godhead. And I'll finish all the karma for everybody in the whole universe. Who's willing to do that? Raise your hand. Such love. So we can be motivated at least by what Krishna says, I'll take you back to Godhead if you preach. That's okay. We can use that motivation. I mean, we're a little contaminated, so we have to work with what we have. There's nothing wrong with that. Prabhupada stressed that all the time. He said, go back to Godhead. You all heard the story again of Jayapataka Swami, where he's trying to glorify Prabhupada, and he's Srila Prabhupada, he said, he tells, I am the most fallen. He said, you're not the most anything. And I just want to serve you birth after birth. And he tells him, don't make your spiritual master come back to the material world. Go back to Godhead. You see, why you want to make your spiritual master come back to the material world? And I mentioned about the book distribution then. And if you get a chance, you look at that Sankirtan newsletter, you'll see back to 1975, 1976. I was looking at it. I look at it often. And I'm amazed that even though we have more book distributors now, still they didn't do half the number of books we were doing back then. Well, mainly we're doing Back to Godhead magazines, which are kind of quick and easy. We could do about 1 million magazines a month with, I don't know how many devotees. Maybe there's 100, maybe more, I don't know how many, but not as many as now. But what motivated us? I know for me, I'm not thinking I want to save the fallen souls. But I knew it pleased Srila Prabhupada. And the other motivation was Prabhupada would use that to get us to serve. He'd make competition. I think I mentioned this before. He couldn't visit all the temples. So he would go to where? Whoever distributed the most books. So you're motivated. You know? And at the same time, the bliss was there as a result, because you have to do it with enthusiasm. You have to have enthusiasm. Otherwise, it doesn't last. So how do you get enthused? There's one motivation. You have to find that motivation. And you surround yourself with people who are motivated like that also. So it wears on you. You see, it increases enthusiasm in this way. So we can use that for some reasons. I want to go back to Godhead. I want to please my Guru Maharaj. At least we should think like that. We all want to please our Guru Maharaj, yes? Say Haribol. And you have to know what pleases him. You should be thinking like that. Who would like to travel with a Guru Maharaj? Raise your hand. No? You don't want to? Be careful what you wish for. You have to be ready for the chastisement too all the time. Not an easy thing to do. But it's nice to be close, isn't it? It's love. Priti Purvakam. We have to do things with love. That's what we're developing here. It's not just, the rules and regulations. I chant my 16 rounds. I've been to morning program. I did this many slokas. Now where's my bliss? It is blissful. But to get to the higher stages, you have to become more spontaneous. Come to that raganuga. And then from the raganuga, the bhav will come even more. Then that gets more crazy. The rules and regulations get in the way, you see. Kṛṣṇa will start. He'll force you to break the rules and regulations. That's what you read with the gopis. Mm-hmm. He could have easily had rasa dance at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It would have been easy for them to sneak away. But he had it at middle of the night. They're already in bed. Now they got to get up. What are they going to do? They can't pretend anymore. The flute's playing. They're hearing the nectar of Kṛṣṇa's flute. Their heart is stirring. Doesn't it? Imagine the feelings are awakening. But my husband is there. I have to stay in the house. No. More flute. That's it. I'm going. The hell with this Varnashram Dharma. And the husbands are blocking the door. No, where do you think you're going? They just leave their body. Go anyway. So much love. So we're nowhere. I'm not near that stage at all. So. But that's what we're developing. So preaching will help you develop that, actually. It's a great austerity. Who wants to go out dressed like this? In India, it's nice. People respect you. Everybody, oh, Babu, Sadhu, Sadhu. I go to sell books. I don't speak any other language. And out of respect, people will buy a book from me. Just out of respect. I know that's the only reason they're buying it. Very few will do that in the West. So, but by performing that austerity, that awakens your love, it does. And you have to become humble. You have to tolerate so many things. I wanted to read something here about these obstacles in preaching. Sometimes that discourages us from doing it. Bhaktisiddhanta says that this is one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta who makes this comment about the Gaudiya Math in their early history. He says, who knows whether this dramatic performance of being mysteriously saved from an unthinkable event in imminent danger on the day of starting an auspicious undertaking for the founding of Sri Bhaktivinoda Ashrama. Well, this is talking back in the 1930s, so they're very erudite. Nobody talks like this now. But this is on the occasion of the first ashram being opened by Bhaktisiddhanta. It was actually opened by householders. And in that place, it was an estate owned by the British, I think. It even had a tennis court inside. So, but a lot of, you can imagine, it's a great austerity of trying to start this thing. I don't know what happened there, but I wanted to pick this phrase out. And he says this was a sign of the future of the history of the Gaudiya Math. What is that? Every time you try to do something, there seems to be tons of obstacles in the way. Isn't it? He said the very day on which the initial preparations for establishing a center for propagating actual truth around the universe, see, they're thinking around the universe, not just Calcutta, were made, our Guru Dev made us understand the Shastric proclamation. I'll just read the English. It says, many obstacles arise in auspicious activities. That's how you know it's auspicious. So when you see things coming away, you're doing the right thing. Don't think you're doing something wrong. It says that in the world, the path to devotion is beset with millions of thorns. How many people have been on Rajmandala Pikram? I see many people try to go without shoes. It's difficult. A lot of thorns, isn't it? Very difficult. So the path to devotion is like that. To propagate the truth, one must be ready to take the burden of numerous, varied perils, if not to place one's very life at stake. As this morning, speaking for the day, so did our Guru Maharaj predict the future of the Gaudiya Math, preaching by staging this pastime to indicate that we should be ready. And Paul, his topmost disciples, they even took Peter and hung him upside down on the cross. And 2,000 years later, look at the result. Kṛṣṇa is still glorifying him. You see? Not that they were doing this for glory, but he's still glorifying them. So let us take up this preaching mission in whatever capacity. It doesn't mean that everybody has to go out on the street and distribute books. There's so many services. Find that service that gives you enthusiasm. And if you're a little more advanced, you can be enthusiastic to do the services that your Guru Maharaj wants you to do that you're not enthused for even. And we do it with this mindset of pushing forward this movement. You know, we are already down here in the material world, right? It'll be very easy for Kṛṣṇa. He could send down, say, 10 Prabhupads. What's the difficulty? Send down 10 gopis. Kṛṣṇa consciousness would spread automatically. We just stand behind Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. No, why should they interrupt their Leela up there? We're already down here. So while we're down here, let us take up the mission. In this way, in whatever capacity. We got a couple of minutes. I want to just read a couple of facts here, since I mentioned Christianity. It mentions that, it says, Christians and Muslims have one striking thing in common. They are both people of the book, that's what they call it. And they both have obligations to spread the word, to get these holy books into the hands and hearts of as many people as they can. This is how they're thinking. Spreading the word is hard. It says the Bible is almost 800,000 words long, and it's very tedious. How many people tried to read the Bible? I just put it down. It didn't make no sense to me. Now I can read it, but back then, forget it. And it says the Quran is even worse. You can't make anything. I don't know how people follow the thing. So tedious. But yet, it says over 100 million copies of the Bible, 2,426,000 languages. We only have 40. It says the Quran is not only the mostly wide-read book in Islamic word, but people like to hear it recited. You become famous if you can just quote it. You know, they have these saptas where they just sit and they just speak it. So it says 95% of the world population is covered in this way. So anyway, I mean, we have a lot to do. I mean, of course, it's only 50 years. They've been going on for 2,000 years. So we're still in the beginning here. So we should rack our brains to, imagine our books are very nice. One Bible, we got 80 volumes of. You can't compare. You can't compare. So we have to get that out there. So let us pray in this way and try to continue pushing forward this movement. Srila Prabhupada ki. Harinam Sankirtan ki. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the Samal devotees. So I went a little too late. If you have any questions or comments, you can ask me afterwards. Haribol. Thank you.